Good morning. I'm Pratap Singh Gaikwad and welcome to another episode of the Buggy Khana. I mean, this episode can't get any better. A Sunday morning where I get to drive my car and then come into a location like this to meet a dear friend and talk about his special cars. I mean, this is the best Sunday I could ever dream of. So please follow me while I introduce you to our new guest. Good morning, Neville.
Morning, Pratap. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure and welcome to the Buggy Khana.
Thank you.
After many conversations of trying to persuade you
Yeah.
to be on the show, you finally agreed. So thank you very much for that. I mean, let me first start by talking about the location that we are at. I mean, it's just outstanding. It's basically a petrol head's paradise. I mean, you couldn't script this any better than it actually is. I mean, stunning views, beautiful house, a garage, a special private haven, mechanical haven for yourself, where you get to tinker away and, play with your cars. I mean, so thank you, Neville, for having us.
My pleasure.
Over here.
Been a long time in the making.
Correct.
Almost, I think, 6 months now.
Yeah, I know.
6 or 7 months. And finally you're here. Nice to have you.
I'm finally here and I've enjoyed, up to this point, I've enjoyed every part of it. The drive was amazing, just to get out of Bombay.
Correct.
And to breathe this fresh air
yeah.
is, I mean, it's a paradise on its own. So, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And we've only spoken about cars actually.
Correct.
And we've only sort of met at sort of car meets or at a friend's car garage. We've not really had any interaction outside of that sort of space.
Yeah.
So, and I don't have to tell you guys that, I mean, this is the true definition of what a petrol head really is. I mean, you sort of tick mark all the categories when it comes to that.
Well, it's just, I think, God's grace that I've had these opportunities come along as we've sort of progressed in life and sort of, it's just sort of generically gone through and sort of I'm lucky and in many ways to sort of possess these cars that I have. Everyone has a bit of a story behind it.
Right.
And how it sort of came to be,
Right. But before we get to these cars, let's start from the beginning, right? How did this get into your blood?
Well, frankly, it's all from my dad, and he was also a petrol head.
Right.
And he always was car crazy and sort of, how the Parsis are crazy about his cars, Right from his college days of, sometimes some things which I never did was nicking the car and sort of going on, instead of going to college, going to Panvel for having fun and, then having issues on the way back and sort of stemmed from all that and sort of when he had from the earliest time we had the Maruti 800 and we had a house in Lonavala and sort of, we used to tinker with the car, put this little add a couple of horns, put 2 spotlights in the front and stuff like that, So it all sort of in a way stemmed from that. And then when I had my own Maruti 800, sort of the first thing I did was I wanted to sort of work on the engine, and that's how the passion for tuning actually grew,
Right.
So worked out the head, put in a cam, and then enjoyed the car. Then came the second Maruti. Then I got the 1000, in which sort of the agreement was that I will take the 1000 off him only on the condition I can put an steam engine inside. So he said, okay, fine. So I went behind our office at Prabhadevi, we went to Vitesse, sat with the guy and ordered the steam engine, and then gave it to them. They installed the engine inside and modified that. And then that led to putting the twin cam GTI engine inside with twin Webers, and sort of that happened, that I enjoyed. And then came the Honda City. So enjoyed the car the way it was. Then sort of I said, then the internet, with the advent of the internet, was reading a lot of stuff on the net, seeing in America what the same car was doing with the same engine. I said, why not put a turbo on it? And sort of I went around getting the stuff and successfully put a street turbo on that car. It was really quick. Autocar did the review on it, and they were mighty impressed, because sort of compared to the regular City where they sort of would do a 160 kilometer, 100 mile timing. My car was 10 seconds faster, and Hormuz himself said, how much 10 seconds is? 1, 2, 3.
That's a lifetime.
Yeah, that's a lifetime. So, and then I got the Skoda Octavia VRS, because at that time, I think after that I got this car.
Right. So when was it? Which year did you get this?
So I
in?
got this in '98. So it
Okay.
was an original import by another petrol head who had built this car in America as his engineering project. You know, so I guess in America when you're doing automotive engineering at the end of the year, they let you build your own car.
Right.
So that's what he did in college. And then the family moved back to India. His dad was from Indore. So they moved to Indore. He moved to Bombay with the car. And sort of he was not finding his feet, so probably wanted to go back. So he wanted to sell the car. It was too expensive to take it back. And through another friend who had sat in my Honda and my S-Team at the time, was sort of said that Neville, take a look at this car. It's an ideal car for you. It's fully done up, you know, and why don't you come and take a look? So I went and saw the car, drove it, took my dad as well. So initially, once I drove it, I said, wow, this is, I mean, something else, you know. And yes, of course, the V8 bug, I mean, that part I left out. The main V8 bug came from my friend Himanshu.
Okay.
Himanshu Sindhi Jadeja of Gondal.
Right.
So back in the day, when my 1000 was modified and we had a hill climb in Powai, I sort of beat him in his Corvette, the ZR1, for the fastest time of the day. And he was a school friend, you know, as it happened.
Okay.
And then, of course, he contacted me, let's meet and this, that, and the other. And that's the first time he took me for a drive in the Corvette back in Bombay. And we went up to Hanging Gardens. He stopped the car. I said, come on, you drive. I said, seriously? Anyway, I drove, and that was when the bug happened, you know, sort of. And then I went to his place in Gondal, drove so many V8 cars. We had a Chevy also, a Chevy Suburban, which was a V8 back in the day, dad's car, of course. And so always came to Lonavala for 20 years in the Suburban every weekend. And then this car came along, you know,
Right.
so of course, dad, of course, agreed straight away, okay, fine, let's buy it. And I sort of played a little part by telling that guy, you know, don't step on the gas within there. He gets a little scared, you know, because I didn't want him to see the potential, because then he would have definitely backed. It's too fast, you know.
Yeah.
Then after many months of driving, and finally I took him in the Corvette one day, and then I told him, now you sit in our car and see. And he's saying, my God, I think I made a mistake, you know. And then, of course, generically, sort of things went forward. The drag meet came along. The car was already modified, so I drove it in the drag meet. I won in my category.
Yeah. That's how I remember this
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
from the drag meets.
Yeah, I
Because
used to drive it to work 3 times a week. So from Kolaba to Prabhadevi,
Yeah.
and park it at the petrol pump, you know,
Right.
and enjoy the car. So
Right.
sort of it's in my life from that time, you know, I've sort of grown with the car. I've put in a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
taken out a lot of stuff, and sort of come one full circle now, you can say, in life that I want it nice and drivable, you know.
Yeah.
So
So, I
it
mean,
is
this-
pulled back a little bit,
Yeah.
and still it's got its essence, which
Right.
I'm still working on to bring the original essence back, you know. It's too, frankly, it's too quiet now. So the essence of the Mustang, the rumble is gone now. So I'm going to do that now in the coming year, you know.
Good. So I think this has been the special car in your life,
Yes,
in a way,
absolutely.
because it's been with you for the longest time.
Yeah,
And this was, I mean, I think it's very different from anything you had earlier,
yeah,
right?
right.
So I think this is special. Can you tell us a bit, you know, about the specifications? What year is this car?
So this is a 1985 Mustang, Fox body, what they always were known as, with a 5-liter V8, with a Tremec T5 transmission.
Right.
And that was all standard
why
from
was it
Ford.
called the Fox body? Because
Oh, that I don't know. I've never sort of delved into it, so why it was called the Fox body.
I think there was maybe a person called Fox or something involved in the. Could be.
Maybe,
There was
maybe,
something I had briefly had
Maybe.
glanced upon something, but yeah.
Okay. Well,
And
that's something I've never thought of or wanted to research on, but I will do now since you brought that up. So
this is a 5-liter,
it's a 5-liter V8.
5-liter V8.
V8, yeah.
Right.
So when I got the car, the engine was completely modded by him. It was, I think the stock engine used to be 185 bhp,
Right.
and he had modded it to close to about, I think, 250 or maybe 280 bhp. Then I sort of made some changes, and I think it went to about 300, 310. But the beauty of these Mustangs was that they were very light. They were not like the regular Chevys and all, which were, I think, at about 2,000 pounds. And this was down to about 1,600 or not 1,600, probably about 1,700, 1,800 pounds, you know. So they were very quick off the line to start with.
Right.
So when I drag race the car, you know, always typical American car, traction is an issue. So launch was an issue, but once I was out of first, then the pull from second, third, fourth was tremendous. And I used to pass cars past 60 miles an hour. I would pass them on the
Right.
on the run, you know.
Yeah.
So initially the regular cars would run away. Like I had one instance where I was against an Evo, you know, an Evo 6, I think of Kunal Kapoor. So of course on launch 4-wheel drive he moved away. Then come 60 miles I passed him, you know, and he was looking at me. I remember him looking at me like this.
Yeah.
So-
Those are quite quick as well.
Yeah, those are very quick.
Fun
yeah,
cars.
Very quick. But you know, this is the essence comes after about 100 kilometers an hour, you know,
Yeah.
because it keeps pulling because of the big engine, you know.
Yeah. And what's the fuel consumption like on this?
Don't ask. Well, the best I've got is probably 5.5
Right.
with the nicest way of driving, and the worst is about 2.5.
Right. And I think even Americans and the Ford company, you know, you could tell the era of car
Yeah.
by also looking at what was happening with fuel prices
Correct.
at that point of
Correct.
time.
Correct.
Because I think the model before this
Yeah.
was a 6-cylinder.
It was also a 4-cylinder. They
Also.
had the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder turbo.
Right.
When they sort of the gas prices and then the gas guzzler tax came in America.
Yeah.
And then I think slowly they came out with again the V8, you know.
Right.
When
I think that's when the gas issues sort of went down. They get pumped
So
up
this
with-
car was, in the same car they also had the 2.3.
Okay.
The 2.3 from SVT, what they would call, you know, special vehicles,
Right,
something.
right.
So this had the 2.3 as well. So frankly, this car is a 85.5, what they would call, because it had fuel injection, the first version of their fuel injection, you know. But the guy who I got it from had removed the fuel injection and put it back to carburetor, because at that time it was much easier to tune, and those old fuel injection systems were very, very difficult to tune, you know.
Right.
So when I redid the car, I did find the ECU and the wiring harness in the right footwell, you know. So the ECU was still there with the wiring harness coming out, and stuff was disconnected, you know. So
Right.
that's where we are with this car, you know. And back in 2017, I had a sort of a unfortunate incident where the car caught fire, sort of broke my heart, because it was an original 1985 car, you know, original carpet, original interior, dashboard, everything.
Right.
And had a fuel leak, car caught fire, and sort of pretty much the front half of the car was burnt. So I mean, of course, the same evening I swore I'm going to build it back the way I wanted, you know.
Yeah.
And as luck would have it, my wife very sweetly stepped in and sort of told my dad, you know, this is what's happened, and he's distraught. So I came home in the evening and he said, go and buy the new one, you know. So I said, seriously, but I'm going to repair this. There's no two ways I'm not going to repair it. He said, okay, whatever you like, but if you want, take the money and go and buy a new one. Anyway, so as God's grace, again, like I say, I'm lucky. Thursday evening this burnt, paid the money on Monday, and next Thursday I got the delivery of the white one
Right.
in Rajkot, you know. So that's
So-
where we are at with the car, you know.
So
And
what's the
I spent
difference?
about a good 3-4 years rebuilding the car.
Right.
So all the dreams of having big brakes and independent rear suspension and rebuilding the engine to, I mean, all the dreams that I had over the years, I sort of had the finance and stuff like that to build it up the way I wanted, you know, with Alcantara on the interior, because these cars came with plastic.
Correct. Yeah.
So Alcantara on the interior, bucket seats, the Recaro bucket seats, embroidered, and big wheels, and I mean, you name it. I mean, whatever the dreams I had, I
did
said,
that,
now
yeah.
this is the only time I'm going to build the car, and that's it, you know.
Yeah.
Put all my effort into it.
So
you
they
know.
say through adversity you get new opportunities
Absolutely,
as well. So
absolutely.
And-
There's absolutely this thing in this car. Yeah.
yeah. Now that you have both of them,
Yeah.
how would you compare the two?
It's miles
So
apart.
precise.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely smooth as silk to drive.
Right.
Factory 400 bhp, absolutely smooth, beautiful handling.
Yeah.
I mean, for the
reliable
price,
also, very reliable.
very reliable.
cars, yeah.
Okay, and frankly, for the price, you get a GT. You know, for the price of say, I think about 65 lakhs at the time.
Yeah.
Where do you get a GT with 400 bhp, 400 foot-pounds of torque? You know,
Correct.
alloy wheels, Brembo brakes, climate control, everything automatic. Apple CarPlay for the interior, bucket seats, leather.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
got everything.
the closest for the AMG would have been at least 1.5 crores,
Yeah.
or maybe more.
Yeah.
You know,
That pricing was actually perfect, spot on.
yeah. And of course the shape. The
Yeah.
shape is the biggest attraction to
Yeah.
that car, you know,
Yeah.
because they sort of copied the 64s and brought it in from the 15, 17, and then the 17, 19, which was this year, you know.
Right. Right.
Sorry, I think the 12 to 15 and 15, 17 was this model year. and then they improved the shape a little bit more and sort of rounded it more. But for me, this is really nice because I like more geometrics. I don't like rounded shapes too much,
Right.
So therefore, this car and even the 6 is more geometric, and that's what I sort of like in my cars,
Yeah. I mean, India has always had a soft spot for Mustangs.
True,
Right? Everybody,
true,
I
true.
mean, Mustang is
True.
very, very sought after, very popular.
Yeah.
Everyone likes a Mustang.
Yeah,
But having said that, this shape,
yeah.
I find, there aren't many of these.
No.
In fact, as far as I'm concerned, this is the only one I've seen. So, any
There are a
knowledge
few.
of how many
There
there
are a few. Probably another 3, 4.
And they're
because my
running?
friend Kaizad had one. He had, I think, an 84,
Right.
and he sold that to somebody. And another friend of mine had a 86 Cabriolet in Rajkot,
Okay.
a red color car,
Right.
and that was sold to somebody as well. So I was surprised to see that one.
Hmm.
But other than that, I've not seen many.
Yeah, I've not-
So maybe there'll be 4 or 5, I would say, in
Right.
India at the most.
Right.
At the most.
So again, numbers are, I mean, because again, for us, India is the market as well, right? I
Correct.
mean, you can't import these. Pretty
Correct.
much.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So in this market and also this era, right? They called, I think, now modern classic. I think this would fall into
modern classic. Yes.
modern classic, and I think this is the space which is of a lot of interest. I mean, to me and also to the market as we are seeing.
Correct.
Because again, these were cars that were there when we were sort of growing up.
Growing up, correct,
right?
yes.
So for us, the immediate attraction is really to cars like this.
Correct.
And
correct. Yeah, it's a natural attraction for us, especially. I mean,
Yeah.
for me also, I mean, I like Fords and I like BMWs as well. But for me, I like cars. Like today, if I had an opportunity, I'd love to have a Camaro in my garage. I'd like to have another Chevy in my garage. Okay, and maybe a Dodge as well. Like a Dodge Hellcat or a Challenger or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So that sort of in a way completes the muscle car
Yeah.
collection in a way. But of course, they're not possible to import to India
Right.
because they're all left and drive inherently. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, sort of I'm attracted, and like I said, I was very lucky. I was not looking for a Mustang. It actually fell on my lap in a way.
Yeah.
And my dad was there to support me to sort of do
But
it.
that's again something that happens, that once you're in this space and you're
Yeah.
talking to people,
Exactly.
because people
That's
often
exactly
ask
what
me, how did
happened.
you get this car? It's just like, it's just because you're in the space, people
Yeah.
you're speaking to,
Yeah.
and it just naturally sort of it gets attracted, and there you go.
Yeah.
I think also the important aspect of these cars in this era is the driving pleasure.
Correct.
Right? Because
Correct.
again, it's modern classic, but it's away from the classic.
Correct.
So you have many more of the modern amenities which are there.
Right.
The suspension is better, the brakes are better,
Yeah.
the steering feel is more planted.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you really go back in time, but you really enjoy the drive.
So, if you like, I can show you the engine.
Yeah,
it's
please.
a 5-liter V8 fully done.
Right.
And sort of everything is custom done, the wiring, the engine, it's been custom painted and stuff. It's got headers and all the stuff that you can do to a 5-liter V8,
Right.
So it's pretty much got everything,
So if you were to make a broad list of all the things that you've done, let's say engine, suspension, brakes,
Long list, very, very long list. I don't think I can put it down verbally. I'd probably have to write it down.
and that you probably need a few sheets of paper.
Few sheets of paper, yeah. If I go into the nitty-gritty, yes, a few sheets of paper, yeah.
Yeah.
Starting from the engine, transmission, drivetrain,
Yeah.
rear suspension, front suspension, air conditioning. I don't know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a long list, yeah, very long list.
But I guess, having your own private workshop
Yes,
also doesn't help, because you just start
absolutely.
working
yeah.
on things,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Opening up as well.
yeah.
Great. So the other thing you said that, you had the incident when the
Yeah.
car caught on fire. So prior to that, the car was a different color.
Yeah, it was a white colored car,
Right.
and it was a factory white, actually. I think an Oxford white at the time.
Right.
And he had put the saline stripes on it. So I forget the first name of the gentleman, but Saline used to modify these Mustangs and put
Yeah.
interior stickering on the car, stripes. So it
Right.
had the saline stripes on it at the time.
Right.
And then when I sort of redid the car, and I already had that white one, I said, why have another white car? Originally my plan was, yes, I wanted exactly the way it was. But then I said, why not do something different? So I chose this color because this is also a Ford color. It's called the Ford Lightning color.
Okay.
So the Ford F150 Lightning came in this color. And I like the blue,
Right.
Sort of blue is my color in a way. So I selected this color. I said, why not spray it in this color? And I think it's turned out pretty well because white was very muted for the
Yeah,
car.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So,
agree. What about the bonnet? What have you done to the bonnet
so
of
the
here?
bonnet was a regular flat bonnet with a slight sort of a lip here, a slight raise here. So back in the day when sort of I used to do the car with my friend Rishad Kundarmal, I said, Rishad, we need to do the bonnet. He's saying, you do what you want, then we'll do the rest. So in the original line, I cut the bonnet with his guy. I bent it there, we raised it up, put in spacers, and then Rishad filled it all back in with me with his guy, you know.
Okay.
And that's how we got a natural scoop.
Right.
And this sort of curvature, etc., we designed to sort of let out the hot air as well. It has a dual purpose. It's not only show.
Right.
It does let out a lot of hot air from the engine over the car instead of just under the car like it was originally designed, you know.
So better cooling.
Much better cooling and sort of keeps the engine bay a lot cooler. Especially when you're driving slow, there's so much heat in the engine area being a V8, and then the headers, etc., generating this heat. The fans are pushing hot air. So almost engine temperatures are close to 70 or 80 degrees centigrade, you know.
Right.
So this helps by reducing it to at least 20-25 degrees here.
What about the interior? Can we just have a quick look?
So the interior was an original Mustang interior. So with good luck, I got another whole dashboard from America, a center console, a new blower unit, and fitted everything. I got Alcantara. I got it done in Bombay. On the dashboard, the seats, the door panels,
Right.
the roof, the pillar covers, and all that. So all that was done in Alcantara.
Right.
Put in original carpet back in,
Yeah.
and built up the car, you know, step by step to what it's supposed to be, you know.
And to get parts and stuff for this car is not an issue, or is it?
No, parts are available, but like for the dashboard, it was just by chance that I spoke to somebody and I asked him for a bonnet, and he turned out to be a salvage dealer. So I said, do you have these? He said, yeah, I have it. So I said, send me pictures. He sent me pictures, and as it turned out, I got a spanking dash from a 86, okay, and put it into the car. It came with this original wiring harness. He sent me the car wiring harness as well, which I put into the car. And sort of the center console is also from a 86, and I don't know how, with God's grace, I would say that it came absolutely spotless. There was not a scratch on any of the parts, you know.
right.
So it looks as if it was always been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also generally American cars and parts are quite reasonable.
Very reasonably priced.
So
very
that way
reasonably
it's,
priced. Yes.
much better. And nowadays, like you said, because you've been through all those eras, like
Yeah.
in the 80s and stuff,
Yeah.
you were not importing anything. We were
Correct.
trying to fix everything.
Exactly.
So that
exactly.
that phase has also now changed to the point that it's almost, if something doesn't work, you just
you
sort
just
of change,
replace it.
replace
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. Very true.
And it's still expensive because there's a lot
Yes.
of duty we have to pay.
Absolutely.
But still worth it.
So it's
I guess.
almost, I mean, depending on the part, it's a regular, like a small part would be about at least 60 or 70% to the cost of the part. you
Right.
know. If it's a big part, then freight plays a major role.
The weight of
and
yeah,
it can
the
go
size.
to 100% more
Yeah,
also. you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So,
Correct. Great, thank you. Can we move to the next car?
sure.
So, I mean,
So like you mentioned, Pratap, earlier, this car sort of came into my life at that time because of my dad, and also from the point of view of a bike, you know, that Honda was imported by him from the UK, from the
Right.
Honda showroom,
right.
and sort of was sold much against my wishes, of course. And I've been following it for almost 30 years.
Come, let's.
And sort of eventually I found the person who had it, and sort of he did a good deal and eventually said, no, Neville, you know, since this was your bike, why don't you have it back, you know, and of
Yeah.
course with the support of my family and my wife especially, we managed to get it back into the family, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you've got many other cars, but you know, again, I was drawn to this bike
Yeah.
because of the story.
Correct.
You know, I
yes.
mean, for me, the story of the bike, of the car, I mean,
Yeah.
it just makes it so
Yeah.
much more special
Correct.
when I hear the backstory to it. And
So still, this is under a bit of work. That's why you see some bits are missing, but sort of, you know, it was restored, but it was not used. So sort of
Yeah.
now I'm doing up the brakes and doing up a few other bits
I
and
think
bobs.
the work
so.
will never end because, I mean, you
work
don't
will
want
never
it
end,
to.
quite frankly, yes. So that's true. So,
But, yeah,
but I want to still ride it. I rode it the other day after about 30 years for the first time.
right.
And found that the front brakes were jammed. So now, again, that's another whole thing. So the parts are on the way.
So are there
And-
any good driving roads around here?
Yeah, so there are a lot of roads down onto the main road and across the lake, along the lake this way.
Right.
There are a lot of nice tarmac roads, So
Yeah,
luckily the roads have been maintained well here for the last now, 3 or 4 years,
correct.
But a few spots where, the road is still being done.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's lovely because you live in Bombay as well.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
you have this slice of heaven right
True,
here.
very true.
And yeah, so I mean, it's the story. I mean, the bike is gorgeous. I mean, she's looking great, even though there's
Yeah.
little work, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
but pretty much in pristine condition.
pretty much, yeah.
As well,
It's been fully restored by the gentleman.
right?
So,
Yeah, and the important to use it also, right? I mean,
Yes.
all of these cars. I mean,
Yeah.
while we have them, if you
Yeah, the
don't
main
use
thing is
them,
to use them.
You have to use them.
so I mean, personally feel low if I've not driven one of my cars and I see it standing for more than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like this monsoon has been so heavy that I don't use the cars that often in the monsoon
Right.
because they just sort of, in a way, get very dirty from the underside and the whole car itself wears.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this last 3 or 4 months I've barely driven the Mustang or this BMW,
Hmm.
So now I think now in next week or so I should start driving it properly. Yeah,
Yeah. Monsoon is always dreaded by all of us.
yeah, true.
So okay, so let's move to this. I mean, again, I mean, for me, like I said, why this place is heavenly is, again, I mean, you've got all the cars, all my dream cars, and all the cars from the era that I actually love. So what's the story about this
So,
one?
well, this goes back, I think, probably when I was maybe 11 or 12 years old.
Right.
And I was born and brought up in Kushrubag. So, being a Parsi colony, always on my bicycle, going around and around, enjoying myself.
Yeah.
And it so happened that in the evening, one evening, I was sort of cycling around and I saw this car in the BMW orange. There was a specific orange, I don't know, it's the Jägermeister BMW, if you remember, had that orange on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bright orange.
Right.
And that car, as a left-hand drive, drove into Kushrubag. And I followed it from the gate
Yeah.
and said, wow, this is... That picture is still in my head,
Yeah.
me following the car for a good 300-400 meters.
Yeah.
And then saw it, enjoyed it, and probably then it went away from my mind,
Yeah.
And sort of always, then with the advent of the internet, always saw the car. I said, if in life I get an opportunity to ever import a car, because this is a 1988, 89 was the last year, these cars are not allowed now anymore. So if I get an opportunity, this would be my dream to import,
Right.
So the opportunity did come up recently, and so of course I convinced my wife, which finally says, yeah, okay, fine, let's just go ahead and do it. This is your childhood dream as well. There are plenty of more dreams, but
But
this one has
I can
happened.
see that she doesn't seem to need much convincing.
No, she doesn't need.
You're lucky.
She's very sweet, and she always sort of helps me and sort of promotes my passion
Yeah.
in a way,
Right.
And so there was an opportunity to import it officially, and so here it is, sort of
Yeah.
put things in place, and then of course my friend Sam Katgara, who's owner of Jinan Company Freight Forwarding, I said, Sam, if you say I can bring it in and sort of pay everything officially, he said, yes, of course we can do it, and sort of I said, okay, fine, then we set the ball rolling,
Right.
We purchased the car and sort of did the needful.
Yeah.
It came here last October.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, the shape, again, this is one of my favorite shapes.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
what we.
It's so elegant.
Yeah,
right?
the elegance,
I mean,
So when I was looking at this car and sort of looking at the other options as well, my other option was a 928S, Porsche 928S, which
yeah.
is a V8.
yeah,
That's also
beautiful.
another very different car.
Yeah.
And the other option was a 944 otherwise,
Hmm.
The 911s were completely out of whack from the pricing point of view.
Yeah.
So I needed to keep within a budget because after duty and all, I still needed to stay within a certain budget,
Hmm.
So the 911 was straight away scrapped when I started looking at prices.
Yeah, those have
Yeah,
globally just gone through the
completely
roof. Yeah.
gone haywire.
Yeah.
So I eventually then sort of said 928, but then I said 928 in essence is not a Porsche. When you talk about Porsche, it's 911. Say what you want. And then I said, okay, so I said, come back to my original dream of the 635. And I went and saw 2 or 3 cars, and when I saw this, I said, this is really a nice, well-kept car.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
very well-kept car. It's in the condition I got it, basically.
Correct.
Cosmetically, I've done nothing to the car.
yeah.
It's in the same polish, and it stayed in the garage, and washed it a couple of times. That's about it, you know.
I mean, externally she's, I mean, flawless.
Yeah,
But again, I think the real surprise is the interior.
true,
I
very
mean,
true.
How
very true.
intact it is. The leather, there's no leather damage.
True.
Everything is, I mean,
There's no creasing on the driver's seat, frankly.
yeah,
And what do you call? I mean, it was just also by chance. Somehow I never managed to do too much of research as to which model you are to buy.
right,
But sort of this came up when I saw it. I liked the car, and then I sort of, when I did the research, I said, "Wow, I'm lucky. I've got a fully loaded car."
Yeah.
And a lot of the options in the car are dealer installed, like headlight wipers, headlight washers, self-adjusting headlights. All those were dealer options that were installed. Cruise control.
So the original owner obviously has,
Yeah, so it was imported for the CEO of BMW.
okay,
You know, of a BMW dealership in the UK.
right,
So it was imported for him. So it was a fully loaded car. You know, and then I guess as luck would have it, people over the years have really taken good care of it.
yeah,
And the last guy who I bought it from, the last owner, was also a BMW fan. He had a Z4 in his possession as well.
right,
You know.
okay. The Z4 is the one with the, is it the one with the doors?
Yeah, I
that,
think so.
That slide down?
Yes.
Oh,
That's
or
right.
Electrically. That
Correct.
slide down.
Correct.
Right,
That's
yeah.
the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you know, I've seen maybe one or two of these cars. Again, I remember seeing a yellow one, that
Right.
typical BMW yellow sort of,
Right.
not neon, but metallic yellow sort of color.
Right.
I must have seen it again in the late 80s or something. And then
Okay.
after that, I haven't seen another one on the streets of Mumbai, for
Yeah.
sure.
I've also seen only one. There was a white one,
Hmm.
which I think.
Yeah. So again, very limited as
Yeah.
far as the Indian
Market is
concerned.
yeah.
You know, and not only that, but in this very condition,
Correct.
just
yeah.
makes it that much more
Special. yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we have a look at the engine? Is
Yeah,
that
sure.
possible?
So before we go into the car, I would like to introduce my wife Ava. She's
Please,
always
yes, please.
supported me through all my endeavors for cars.
So welcome, Ava.
Thank you, Pratap.
Welcome
so
to the
nice
Buggy
to have
Khana.
you too. Yes, thank you.
And thank you for, you know, having me and our viewers, you know, come to your home.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And you know, as I've mentioned many times already on this video, I mean, this is a dream house for any sort of petrol head.
I agree, and it's to be shared with everybody who has a similar passion. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's about sharing our passion with everybody else, and there's so many other people like
Correct.
us.
And what God has given us, this heaven, it has to be shared.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely spectacular. Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not done just
Oh,
as yet.
sorry.
As Neville said, you know, he's had a lot of support from you. You know, again, without that, none of this, in fact, would be possible. You know,
True.
to sort of indulge oneself in a sort of hobby like this or in a passion like this is not easy. And you know, it's important to have, you know, your family members support you through this.
Yeah, so I'm
So-
very happy to do that for him. And I know how much it means to him. So, yeah.
I mean,
think
she
there's
was the one who
nothing-
was instrumental in sort of getting me that car, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No,
and
no,
of course,
this-
not only from this car, from the beginning, you know, sort of I've been crazy about cars, and also for doing the Rage project, you know. If I had not got sort of, in a way, her blessings that,
Right.
yes, Neville, you know, go to Rajkot, stay
Yeah.
there 7 days a week, you know,
Yeah.
or 5 days a week. And I did that for 10 years,
Yeah.
you know. So 5 days a week I was away from the family, pursued that, did that, finished it, and came back to Bombay, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a lot for her as well. So
No, I look at it in a very different way also, that we all come with a passion, we all come with something that you come to earth, bring along something. And I was so happy to see that in him. And it would be the true injustice if I did anything but support him. So
Yeah.
it's just wonderful. And when I look at him and I look at the way he's built this, in COVID this came about, brick by brick, standing and doing the electrics. And I mean, I haven't seen a human being like him, for sure.
Yeah. No,
With that passion.
he's lucky to have this passion. He's even luckier to have you.
Thank
True,
you,
very true,
Pratap.
very
Really.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I'm
much
blessed.
for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So basically, this is a 635, so a 6 series with a 3.5 liter straight 6, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, again, God's grace, got the engine, everything in this super condition.
Yeah, it's immaculate again.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
All the
You won't touch
wiring is
anything.
absolutely immaculate and basic condition. I've done a bit of mechanical restoration as well on the car
right.
because of its age, and there's still some left. So, but like you said earlier, it will go on.
Now, this is a 635
CSI.
CSI. So
Yeah.
what does the CSI stand for?
Something in German, I think, of continuous something injection.
Because these came also in various.
Yes, so the previous
Models.
ones were, it started I think with a 630, then they got a 633 and then a 635.
Okay.
So the ending of the era was with a 635. This I think has got the Bosch Motronic fuel injection, and the previous versions had a little different injection when it came about with the CSI word. It's something to do with continuous, S stands for something in German I think, and injection.
Now, while you have your cars and your passion, and you have this amazing workshop of yours as well, you do help out with doing something for your friends from time to
Yeah,
time?
so I always I'm happy to help my friends in anywhere and every way. I help my friends Kaizad and Nexad a lot, helping them with technical stuff and whatever makes life easier for them in any way.
Right.
And I spend 3 days a week there, and it's in a way I learn also, and it continues to grow my passion for stuff.
Yeah.
And recently I took on a project from Mr. Goenka. I'm building a car for him, a specific hot rod.
Right.
I don't want to delve into the details, but that I guess when the car comes
Yeah.
to life,
Sure.
it will have its day.
Yeah.
And other than that, I like to tinker with my cars. Something or the other is to be done. Someone needs an oil change, or someone needs a service, or some small technical thing needs to be attended to. So I spend my time doing that here a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you help me out a lot.
Yeah,
Whether it's
my pleasure.
my Jeep, my Mustang,
Yes.
and we've always, and it's always been amazing because we've been like struggling away, and it's like one call, and you just come in for half an hour, and then it's fixed
Thank
to
you.
perfection.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I mean, we really do appreciate that very much.
My pleasure.
And I mean, hopefully, we are having a discussion that maybe
Yes,
we can
yes.
work on a project together.
Yes. Yes.
Which would sort of combine both our passions
True,
and
true.
make it interesting. The process of doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
mainly is going to be you,
Yeah.
and then to see the final product.
True.
I'm excited to have that conversation.
So my you can say way of doing things is if you're doing something once, do put the best in you can,
Right.
and do it right the first time. Put the best of the stuff you can in there, by which then you get what you want, and it's not a struggle that every time you want to use that thing. Oh, now today this is not working. Tomorrow that is not working.
Yeah.
Then the whole pleasure of having that toy is lost.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah. After a while, then it becomes a headache.
absolutely,
Right? It's
it
like
becomes a nightmare.
frustration.
It gets frustrating.
Correct,
So
correct.
that is why I wanted you to come today as well, and take a look at that project. What is involved? How much of actual thought process goes in it?
Right.
How much of actual design of what you want to do, the aim, and where you want to be with it. What's the requirement of that car, and then create something. My idea is to create something. If you're making something, create it like no other.
Yeah.
There's no point doing run of the mill.
Correct.
So I'm not interested in repairing cars like the regular run of the mill stuff that is being done.
Right.
For me, I'd like to do it where I can use my head, with my understanding and experience for so many years, and make something run better than what it used to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that way in life, it's a learning process. As I go along, I also learn still that okay, this works better this way when I do it this way than what I used to do before.
Right.
And for me, at the end of the day, like for my close friends, when I do something like for my friend Sam and all, I don't charge them for it. Like I built his 190 SL here, just the technical bits. The whole restoration was done by Kaizad and Nexad.
Yeah.
Just the technical bits of upgrading the fuel injection, installing air conditioning in the convertible. I mean, he kept telling me, "No, never let me pay you for it." I said, "See, Sam, your thank you and that smile to see it working is my payment. I don't want anything else, because I mean, God has given me enough here. Okay, what more do I need here? And if I can help somebody and put that smile on someone's face,
Right.
and for him enjoying that passion and that
Yeah.
toy of his, what more can I ask for?
Yeah.
You know.
So I think we're going to probably christen the workshop as special projects division or something like that. Because it was just coming to me because, as I stand and I speak to you, talking about special builds that we're going to do, not something run of the mill, etc.
Yeah.
And while I also stand on this stunning property, it just reminds me of Iron Man. If you've seen Iron Man and his home,
And his workshop. I
it's
agree.
exactly the same
Fantastic,
thing.
Fantastic. That's on a different level, but still fantastic.
It's
yeah.
exactly the same thing.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
it's amazing, and I hope that I'm definitely looking forward to working with you on our project,
My pleasure.
and
yeah. Same here.
I'm sure there'll be others, and it will fulfill your
Yeah, for me, it's the
desire.
passion of building and
Yeah,
creating.
absolutely.
I probably don't want to do 5 cars a year and have 10 people working for me.
Right.
There's no fun in that for me now. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been through that.
Yeah.
So for me, it is to sort of, have something, think, design, implement it, and then see the finished product.
Yeah.
So I like to sort of work with my hands. That's where I am at.
I can see that. I mean, you do. It's a one-man show.
Yeah.
But the great thing is you've got all the right tooling, you've
Yeah.
got the space, and you can think peacefully
Exactly.
in this place.
Exactly. So
And
tooling is the main thing in a way, So
Yeah.
I go and buy tools.
yeah,
So because at the end of the day, what a tool can do for you in a simple way of maybe grinding something or filing or cutting something, you can't do by hand.
right.
So basic setup of tools and what we would call infrastructure in a way has to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you compromise on that, then the basic quality that you want to give
Correct.
is not going to happen. I mean,
Correct.
there are 10 things I can buy tomorrow,
Yeah.
but then will the cost justify the means as well?
Yeah.
That
No,
way. Yeah.
And also, I think with India opening up and allowing
Yes.
items to be imported, etc.,
Yeah.
it's giving the Indian market that edge now
Correct.
to sort of also, because earlier our quality of work wasn't up to the mark.
Absolutely.
But how could it be?
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have the tools to do
Correct,
it. No
correct.
know-how, knowledge, nothing.
Correct.
But with the internet,
Yeah.
with the governments opening up some of these areas, I
And
think
also a lot of other processes which were only for industrial use and for the big numbers game are now coming down to sort of our level of the 1s and 2 parts.
Right.
For example, like laser cutting, it was inaccessible, I would say 5-6 years ago for a single person, for example.
Right.
Today there are people I can send a simple file out and I can get 2 pieces of that part made.
Yeah.
That was just not on a few years ago.
right.
So
that expertise is getting
yes,
created.
and then 3D printing is coming in a big way as well.
Right.
So a lot of people are giving old parts and say, make this in 3D, and then they use that 3D as a sample to cast something out of aluminum.
Right.
So that is also coming in a big way into India. Maybe not so much in the automotive front, but a lot of it is happening up north and in the south, where people are using 3D printing and doing a lot of good work as well.
Right.
Yeah,
You can see that in the quality. I mean,
exactly.
even now, we have, car shows.
Yes.
I mean, you were there at the last one
Yes.
in Udaipur, the
Yes.
Oberoi Concourse.
Yes. Yes.
And when we see the cars that were displayed there,
Correct.
I mean, they were,
Absolutely,
international
yeah.
standard.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
looking at the Oberoi Concourse in Udaipur,
yes.
one got to see the quality of
Yes.
the restoration that is
Yes.
now happening in India.
Yes. And also a lot of the regular processes that are required in the restoration, the materials that are available now in India are also all up there where at international standard, like coatings and wires and different things
Yeah.
that the restoration guys also have easy access to.
Right.
The struggle for them to get stuff into the country, it's like
Yeah.
some parts or restore certain components is changed a lot, because I can see it all the time. I visit Kaizad and Exad all the time,
Right.
and I see that they get a lot more stuff imported easier, and the quality of the processes that they are outsourcing to also giving back a good quality in return.
Yeah, that's important.
That's very important, and that's when the products start going up there.
Correct.
you know.
Because that's what happens abroad also.
Sorry, yeah, exactly. And the only thing here is that the big problem here is that abroad you get a wrong part, you send it back the next day, and maybe 2 days or 3 days later they'll send you the new one out.
Yeah.
But with our situation and our system, you get the wrong part, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
There's no way you can send it back because the freight to send it back, if it's a big part, the freight to send it back is just not justified.
Correct.
You know, so that's always, in a way, a sword over your head by which you sort of make sure and think 10 times that you've got the right thing and not the wrong thing. You know.
Correct.
But you know, these small things do happen
Yeah.
because you know sometimes they make a mistake in putting the wrong picture or the wrong model here for the part,
Right.
and you know it sort of sometimes goes awry a bit.
Yeah. But I think, you know, the space is also witnessing a change.
Yes.
You know, it's really picking up. There are more people
Yes.
now getting into this because the
Yes.
options are more, right?
Yes, yes.
Earlier it started off with the pre-war cars.
Correct.
Then it went on to the classic cars, let's say 50s, maybe
Yeah.
up 60s.
Yeah.
Now that has further, you know, sort of expanded with the modern classic, and that's again allowed a new sort of enthusiast
Correct.
to enter into the space
Yes,
with the
yes,
modern
yes.
classics.
Absolutely.
You know,
Very
so
true.
so numbers have grown, and you know, hopefully, the whole space. You know, it's not just that the price of the cars have gone up, but hopefully, you know, the support functions, which are guys running their shops,
Correct.
etc.,
Correct.
are also going to get a benefit of that.
Correct.
And with that benefit, and with even to some extent with prices going up, people are demanding better quality of
Correct.
work to come out.
Correct.
But one thing I'm still sort of seeing is that, you know, there still seems to be a bit of a shortage of the support teams,
True.
of the labor which is there in some of the shops.
Yes, because you see, to a point, the very highly skilled labor or the guys who are doing well have better aspirations. The dealerships are picking them up.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So, you know, the Indian word where you call that skilled guy karigar, you know, that skill set is dwindling to a point,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because the dealerships are picking up these guys at salaries which are 3 and 4 times of the regular shops. Okay, so regular shops are, you know, with sort of the owners using their IP, their what do you call, exposure to the foreign countries, to foreign shows, as to what you should be at, guiding these guys to up their game and make these guys understand what is the good quality here.
Yeah.
You know, getting the quality out is what I see. You know,
Yeah.
Getting that same guy who's working on the body shape of your car, the tin work of the car, guiding him through photographs, the internet. You know,
Right.
he's got access to the internet on his phone now. So guiding them in the right direction to get the shapes, to get what they want out of the car right.
Correct.
You know, that's a very important role that these small shops are playing, and you know, sort of, that's where the game is really going. You know, that's where the change is. You know, the regular shops, because of the lack of IP which is in their head,
Yeah.
some of them are not as good as
Yeah.
the other guys.
The exposure part.
The
of it.
exposure part of it, you know, and also the understanding, basic understanding in life, you know, that, you know, if I do these things, I know that it will turn out like that.
Yeah. No, very true. But again, I saw some of that even at the Oberoi show, where some of the larger shop guys had brought their teams. You know,
Correct.
even just and. I
For
think
them to see what are the other guys doing.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I think that was a good.
And that's very important for these mechanics and tin guys, that, you know, what have the other guys done? What are we creating this masterpiece up against?
Correct.
So it's a fire in his belly also to do well next time. You know, next time we want to win the prize in our category and not come second to that guy's car.
Correct. Correct.
You know?
Correct.
So it's a very nice thing. Even, I mean, for me, I keep saying Kaiser because I work with them quite closely on certain things mechanically, and they at Udaipur brought the whole team.
Yeah.
You know, for them to get their exposure and also have a break from the mundane thing of the garage.
Correct.
Spend 3-4 days, enjoy the whole atmosphere,
Correct.
and, you know, sort of see what the rest of them are doing. Where can they improve?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a big part. I mean, it's a big thing for them, especially from where they come from.
No, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I agree. So, you know, Evan, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I mean,
it was so nice to have you.
as I started by saying, this is one of my best Sundays that I get to spend. You know, I got to drive here.
Yeah.
I got to be here
Yeah.
with you and Ava. I mean, for hosting me, for giving us access to your home. I know
My pleasure.
how private a person you are. So
Yeah, I like to
we,
keep
we really appreciate that. And then, you know, to be so close to these amazing cars. You know, I mean, I could just
Thank you.
get a chair and I mean, that's what I do in my garage.
Yeah,
Quite
I'm
often,
sure,
I just
I'm
sit and I
sure,
look at
yeah.
my cars, and you
Yeah.
know, just it's a great place to be. And you know, the other important thing is I'm looking forward to working with you on our project.
Yeah.
And one of the things now that I'm extremely excited about is, if possible, if we don't do phone updates, and if I'm allowed to come from time to
Most
time,
welcome anytime.
and have a look at the car, I mean, that would just
Most
be
welcome. Most welcome. Spend a weekend with us.
a great
You
treat.
can sit with me while I'm fixing stuff or breaking stuff, and our house is open always to our friends.
Thank
Most
you very
welcome.
much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank
Pratap.
you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Neville, a very dear friend, a complete petrol head, as you can see. I definitely did, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Thank you very much.